for American troops in Afghanistan. 7 soldiers killed in separate attacks. That brings the U.S. death toll, to 42 this month. Engineers, meantime, will start work today to remove a temporary cap that stopped oil from gushing into the Gulf, all part of an effort to raise that failed blowout preventer, which is considered a key piece of evidence in determining what caused the rig explosion in the first place.
All right, thank you, Juliette. President Obama addresses the nation tomorrow night about the troop withdrawal in Iraq. So how much credit will he take? If his latest weekly address is any indication, he could be taking a lot.
As a candidate for this office, I pledged I would end this war. As president, that's what I'm doing. I've brought home more than 90,000 troops since I took office. I've directed the federal government to hire more veterans, including disabled veterans. And I encourage every business in America to follow suit.
He pointed to himself in that address 6 separate times in just a few sentences. Is this a good approach? Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate, 2 pros. Mark Thiessen, former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, and Democratic strategist Gary Nordlinger. All right, Mark, for your money, if you're writing for President Obama, what would you include in that speech? Would I be everywhere?
Well, he does use I a lot. He's very self-referential. But the word that really bothered me that he continued to use over and over again was end or ending the war. This was a message about ending the war and not about winning the war. There was not once a mention of victory or success. You know, he talked about our veterans, but he didn't say a word about the mission that they had accomplished, not a word about the fact that they had tamped down sectarian violence, or that they had delivered a blow to al-Qaeda, or that they had liberated millions of people. So he didn't talk a word about the mission. The speech tomorrow night is a very high-stakes speech because he almost never talks about the war on terror. So the question is his goal tomorrow to send a message of resolve to our allies, to our troops, and especially to our enemies, or is his goal to send a message to his left-wing base of his party, which is mad at him and frustrated going into the election, that he's bringing these wars to an end? That's the big question.
And Gary, you also said he has 2 audiences he's talking to, and that really builds on Mark's point.
Oh, I agree. Actually, I agree with Mark's points. And also, I think one of his critical audiences here are the opinion leaders in Iraq. I mean, these guys had an election months ago and have yet to put a government together. So,
but we're leaving anyway. We're leaving without a government because of the president's timeline. How about this, Mark, and then Gary, you weigh in. Hey, I got to give credit to George W. Bush because he went against popular opinion and went with the surge. I didn't think the surge would work. I was wrong. What about saying that, Mark?
That would be lovely, but I'm not losing any sleep waiting for that to happen. But Joe Biden, if you remember, our friend Joe Biden, who you just had on a few moments ago, said that Iraq was going to be one of the great successes of the Obama administration. He forgot to tell Obama. I mean, he didn't even tout the successes. All what he considers success is America leaving, not the objective that we achieved in Iraq, and also not the objective we're trying to achieve in Afghanistan. Look, if this speech tomorrow night is a speech about leaving Iraq, leaving Afghanistan, then it's going to be a disaster.
Right.
If it's a speech that he shows resolve, it's going to be a success.
Gary, also Syria and Iran and others are listening. They want to know if America is abandoning or holding fort, having a presence, continuing to watch and care.
Right, but you see, the guy has a real tightrope that he has to walk here because he certainly doesn't want to be proclaiming mission accomplished. He also has to show the American public that this is worth seeing through, worth making the investment, and he's got to show our allies that we're committed, and at the same time send a clear message to the Iraqis that they have to get their act together and get a government, an honest, effective government in place.
I just wish he'd wait to get them standing up after the election came off before we announced to everyone we're pulling out. Mark Thiessen, Gary Nordlinger, thanks so much. We're all going to be watching, I believe. I know I will. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, the imam behind a mosque at Ground Zero speaking out for the first time in weeks. Hear who he's blaming.